Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and a special thanks to my guest, Frankie Frank Ferragini. I'd like to say my neighbor, but he's around the corner and down the road and on the other street, but he's still local to me, and very grateful that he could join me today. Frank is a television personality, a four-time published author of some wonderful books. He writes blogs. He has all kinds of things on the go. What have I left out, Frank?
Father of two, still try to work with the family business, which is Bradford Greenhouse Garden Gallery. Each and every morning you can see me on breakfast television, and I try to get the weather right.
Well, you know, it's the Doppler dartboard. And so it's the only job where you can be right 50% of the time, or even less or more, and still get to keep your job. So you're pretty accurate.
Politician, but I guess you get to vote when a politician.
Yeah, you may not get to keep your job, and you're definitely not as popular. They're definitely not as popular as you are, because I think you're one of the most popular weather people that they've had, award after award. So kudos for that.
Thank you.
Of course, I know you best from the family business because it's around the corner, which has always been a huge help to me. Going in for advice or for a plant or whatever. We're going to talk today about retiring, even though you're far too young to retire.
I'm getting there. I'm going to be 50 next year, and so it's in my radar right now. Yes.
So you have to have a plan. So, okay, I respect that, because that's what I did. I'm 58. I retired a couple weeks, well, literally last month, the 28th of July. Congrats. So I haven't been officially retired for very long, but it does need a plan. It truly does need a plan. You can't just, the days where you picture people sitting on the porch are long gone. But a lot of people talk about, as soon as they retire, they want to take up gardening. Now, I get why somebody who's been a long time gardener loves it and would like to do more of it. But if you have a romantic notion of just retiring on Friday and becoming a gardener on Monday, there's a little more to it. So maybe give us a little bit of advice for those who want to jump in.
Yeah, the word gardening, sometimes we talk about that. The word gardening is basically knowledge and work. Because in order to be successful at gardening, you actually have to have somewhat of a history to know your property. And you'll need to know some knowledge in terms of what to plant where, what kind of overwinters, what type of soil that you have, and things like that. So the more knowledge that you have, or the more that you can ask questions, and there's tons of information that's out there. That's why I wrote the books as well, is it really will guide you and help you. And, you know, anybody that's ever grown a plant has killed a plant. So you're going to have, it's like,
I'm 3 to 1.
Yeah. It's like life though, right? It's a journey. You have successes, you have failures, and it's try to year after year. Like even for myself, I moved to a new property and I'm learning that property. It's going to take me a few years to say, oh, well, that's a wind tunnel over here, and certain things will grow well there. Gardening, though, is something that's accessible. Every age can garden. It is a physical outdoor leisure activity, so it does need effort. You will burn calories. It's like going to the gym and being at the beach at the same time. It's really a give back in terms of you will have an end product. So you will either have great looking gardens or you'll have tomatoes. I often say that gardening is better than therapy, because at the end you have tomatoes. Or therapy, you don't have any tomatoes, you maybe just feel better. But studies have shown that being in the garden and working around plant material makes you feel better. So the release of serotonin. So for those that are retiring, I would say, yes, indeed, it's a great thing to do that, the activity of gardening, but make sure that you don't do something that's going to be overwhelming and or that's going to turn you away from gardening. I don't want you to be a victim to your garden. I want your garden to be a pleasure, not a pain.
Okay. And gardening is very physically demanding. So, you know, stretching, injuries, injury avoidance, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like generally in the spring, it doesn't matter the age of the person, but if they go out there and they garden without stretching and they jump right in, physiotherapists and everybody from massage therapists will tell you that the #1 injury in spring is garden-related injuries. So it is a physical activity, especially if you're going to be building a garden, tearing up sod, digging, and those. There's other things that we can do. We can do raised containers. And by doing raised containers, we're not bending down as far. They don't necessarily need to be weeded as much. The soil warms faster. I grow a lot of my vegetables in stock troughs. So they're actually the same. the same troughs. I bought them at PV Mart, which used to
Yeah.
be. Yeah. And I grow them in that. They're beautiful. They have drainage. They're galvanized so they don't rust. There's lots of soil capacity. And I grow, like right now, I'm looking at them through the window, and I have some eggplants and tomatoes and kale and hot peppers, Swiss chard, basil, all growing out of these stock troughs, which is fantastic. But as I said, you know, it's something that you're doing to keep you active, to give you purpose, to improve not only the quality of the look, curb appeal of your home, but to improve your well-being. It has shown that it will improve your well-being. So no matter the age, gardening's great, but gardening can be work, and you don't want to do too much of it, too many gardens.
Right, because the other thing people want to do is they want to have time to do other things. And if you want to just garden, kudos to you. You know, I know people want to golf, people want to fish, they want to do all those things. And I think I've mentioned to you before, that's the reason I took up golfing, was to see what golf courses use, right? To see how they invest their money in their landscaping. And I know around here, I want more lawn, less plants. Stephen cringes every time I take down a fence because I just mow more lawn. But xeriscaping is a way to go, as I've learned, that's not just totally maintenance free. You can't set it and forget it, but it is less work, but gives you a certain amount of payback.
Yeah, you know, xeriscaping is, you know, selecting plants that work in the area, that work with your soil type, and that way you're not having to water during periods of drought or watering as often. You know, using mulch is another way to reduce the amount of work that you have, because mulch will retain moisture and then cut down on your weeding, because the pain points of gardening is usually water and weeding. And then I would say pruning thereafter and deadheading. So, and then there's bug management. And then if you live in the country, there's bunnies and there's deer, and there's a whole bunch of different things that you can have that happen. But if you work with your space and you plan it right, and if you have taken over a property, or perhaps some change has happened in your life, maybe we've lost a loved one and the gardens become overwhelming, we can edit them down. So we can start to get rid of some of those gardens that are taking some extra work and simplify the property overall, and even design it by using things like mulch. It could be even rock mulch and other plant materials, so that we can cut down that workload to create a more enjoyable garden. Because even though everybody thinks gardening is enjoyable,
It's
well,
work.
if it's all work, if you're going to have, you know, a vegetable garden that's an acre, and then you have another 10 gardens on top of that, that's the work, man. That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of chores. So say you don't have an acre garden, say you got a quarter acre, and that's a little too much for two people. So there's a lot of agencies or organizations out there that would like your leftover produce, that you can only eat so many tomatoes or eggplants or kale. What do you suggest?
Yeah, so like one tomato plant feeds a family of 4. So there's only 2 of you, and you did 10 tomato plants, you got a whole lot of tomatoes, especially this year, because it's been hot, right? This year has been hot and sunny, and it was perfect for tomatoes.
Perfect.
So a lot of food banks, you reach out to them, they'll actually take perishable donations. They don't advertise it, but they will. I've donated to them many times, actually through a couple programs that I do called Elevated Eats, which is a community garden that we work on. As well, there are some Grow a Row, Give a Row, which is another one that you can do. And then there's some different apps that you can look at, because there are some different apps that have been developed for that, for the shareable of food. A lot of fruit trees. A lot of people with fruit trees are like, I don't need this many pears.
Yep.
But as well, you know, you can even just go on Kijiji, and you can go on to your Facebook Marketplace or to your Facebook friends or your social network and just say, I have too many tomatoes, anybody want some? And that's the nice thing about gardening, is sharing.
Yes.
Especially zucchinis. A lot of people like to share zucchinis.
Yes. And I love zucchini, but I can only eat so much of it, and you can only make so much zucchini bread or zucchini chocolate cupcakes, but yes. Okay, so let's kind of stick with the gardening theme, but let's kind of morph into other ways to do gardening. Now, I'm sure in your short 49 years, you've probably seen some spectacular gardens. Like, what's on your bucket list? Where would you go? Or what do you recommend for people who want to visit gardens, but don't necessarily want to dig gardens?
Okay, let me tell you about some of the gardens that I've seen, and then some of my bucket list. So if we're just going to do a short little drive from my home, I could go just down off Leslie Street in Toronto, which is TBG, Toronto Botanical Gardens. This year, there's actually some trials that are happening in terms of new annual varieties. Great. Lots of hummingbirds there. It's right on the border of Edward Gardens. And there's there's some nice conservatories in Toronto as well. And then we can go for a little bit of a longer drive and we could just go over to Burlington, and that's where the Royal Botanical Gardens is. Fantastic, great hiking trails. One of the best wisteria vines that I've ever seen that are there. Some rose gardens. They actually, when their iris is in bloom, unbelievable. They have peonies as well when they're in bloom, really remarkable. Then you can just drive a little bit further and go to Niagara on the Lake. Niagara on the Lake and Niagara Parks does like a fantastic job. There's the Niagara School of Horticulture. And Niagara on the Lake, I'm a big fan because you can wine and dine and look at some great gardens that are there. And let's say that we want to hop on a plane and head our way to the West Coast, so we can go to Butchart Gardens in Victoria Island, which was an old gravel pit at one point. And the wife of the owner decided to take it over and replant it. So that's kind of cool. And it's one of the most popular garden tourism destinations. If you want to do some flying, there is in Arizona, the Desert Botanical Gardens, which is in Phoenix, Arizona. Cool. If you like cacti, unbelievable, a lot of fun. If you love Disney, the Epcot Flower and Garden Show that happens in March all the way through to early May, unbelievable. And Epcot is great for different drink and food as well, so you can blend that in. And then you can travel to Europe. Europe has some of the most historical gardens. The Netherlands, of course, there is the Keukenhof. The Keukenhof in early spring is where you see all the tulips in bloom. And there's millions of tulips and blooms in the Netherlands. And then this year, next year in 2022, you can join me on a river cruise on the Emerald River Cruises, and that's going to be one up the Rhine. So we start in Basel, Switzerland. We do a little bit of a cruise up the Rhine into France, and then we end off in Amsterdam. During the cruise, we actually have garden trivia nights, and we're going to do a couple different talks, and then we'll end off at Floriade, which is a garden show that only happens once every 10 years. And so this is one that you'll be able to do a tour, and you'll be touring with me. And then on my bucket list, a show that I've never been to before is the Chelsea Garden Show. I would love to go.
I have to agree with you on that. I would love to go to the Chelsea as well. But that Rhine tour sounds pretty good to me. And I also hear wine and chocolate in amongst the trip somehow.
Yeah, some of the people that are already booked and attending are some greenhouse growers that I know. And there's one of the breeders of flowers that I know that just wants to come. Yeah. And so there's a group of about 10 people that I know that are coming that are great minds of gardening. Yeah. But at the same time, they're a lot of fun. People that would generally work in the world of growing, when they get time off, because they don't often get a lot of time off, right, they work hard and play harder.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, you would probably know that you come from a long line of growers. Family business. So maybe let's segue into that a little bit, because you have people in your family at all ages. How do they segue from robust gardening to downsizing or doing a little less? Is that difficult? Is that difficult. A tough transition for them?
Yeah, because the family business, anybody that has a family business, the business is not a business per se. It's another person sitting at the table. It's one that, you have conversations at your lunch table, at your dinner table, even when, like, it's my father and his brothers that own the company along with one sister. There's 5 owners. And so, I'm a kid that grew up working when I was a kid growing up, working Monday through Sunday with my family, and then going for Sunday dinner with my entire family. My dad's 78 as of now, and his youngest brother, which there's 21 years difference between his younger brother. There's 8 between myself and him. His younger brother's in his mid-50s. And so they're all trying to figure out about retirement. And it's hard for them because this has been their purpose. This is what they do. This is what gets them excited in the morning. And so there's younger cousins and younger family members and even younger staff that need to take it and grow it and to build it other ways. And so I think the key is for each one of my family members is to find purpose. And purpose can be anything from, tending to a garden. It can be improving your golf score. It can be that bucket list. It's your vision board. You talk about the vision board for life. Well, I would say that you need a vision board for retirement. because it's just simple. It doesn't matter what age you're at.
Mhm.
The only way that we're going to be happy is if we have purpose, or we're growing or learning.
Right,
Just because you get to be older, there's nothing more exciting than finding out something new or feeling accomplished.
right. Well, actually, I couldn't agree with you more, because I've had a tremendous time, planning the retirement. So there was a lot of fun in that. Trying to find some new purpose, because as you can imagine, being a fire chief, there's a lot of purpose every day, a lot of chaos, a lot of problem solving. People don't call 911 to chat. They
Mhm,
call you when they're having the worst day of your life. And the
mhm.
fire department goes and we help them solve the worst day of their life. So lots of purpose in that job. So I understand what you're saying. I like the concept of learning. I've taught myself to blog and do some of this stuff. Every now and then I forget to hit record. I haven't learned it all,
It's
but
all
there's,
good. Yeah, we
yeah,
all fake it till we make it.
you all fake it till we make it. That's right. So that's important. Uh, do you find, and you touched on the family business, and that it's the other person at the table. It's planning to retire from a family business, gardening aside, retiring from a family business has got to be an enormous discussion that the family has to have, and each generation must have to have it.
Yeah, we've actually gone through some family business coaching.
Oh,
So we've done that. There's been succession talks. There's been a lot of work that goes around it as well. And yeah, there's generation one, there's generation two, generation three, and then now we're getting to generation four. So my kids are generation four. And so with that, we all hear the stories about how the younger generations, generation one kind of build it, generation two usually grow it, and then generation three screw it up.
yeah, I've heard. Friends who own multiple grocery stores said the exact same thing. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's generally the case, but not always the case. But yeah, they're big discussions, and but this is the key, is communication.
Right.
Communication and being willing to have those discussions and just being honest.
Mhm.
Even though sometimes those discussions are things that maybe will hurt some feelings. But it's like, I often have this belief, like I coached sports for a long time,
Mhm.
hockey specifically. And the reason why a kid maybe would not make a team, in my eyes, is that it's not that I didn't like the kid or his talent level. I just didn't think he'd be successful at that point.
Right.
So it's always about putting a person in position of success.
What's
And yeah,
Right. It's funny that you should use the analogy of hockey and with business and all the connections, because sometimes when you're trying to decide the family business, people just aren't in a point in their life when they're ready to take it. And what it relates to hockey tickets, we have seasons Leafs tickets, and we've had them since my great grandfather, sorry, worked on building the gardens.
you're lucky.
And exactly, we have 6 seats, hockey tickets, hockey tickets.
Wow, that's expensive.
We'll go to a game. But when my grandparents were downsizing and couldn't take the tickets anymore, my dad didn't want them. He was too young and too, not interested in hockey. And of course, we were way too little to any of that. Well, looking forward, I wish my dad had found a way to say yes, right? Because then they would have transferred through the family differently.
Mhm.
And then there's no problem with the way they've done it. But when you're trying to decide things of such a magnitude that you're talking about, somebody might not be ready right now, but 10, 15 years from now, they might be ideal. So the family business coaching and going through that process is probably quite brilliant.
It was really interesting. It was really interesting. And I also find that even people that are watching this today that are at that age of retirement, have a discussion with your kids about how you want things to be. Like, a lot of times we don't want to talk about death, but it's just a fact of life. It's a certainty. I'm going to pay taxes and I'm going to die.
That's right.
Those two certainties, right?
Yeah.
And so with that, in order to avoid conflict in family between different children and whatnot, having those discussions openly are great ways to kind of make sure that the transition is good, no matter whether it's a business or an estate. Because money is something, whenever there's a problem,
Yeah,
either
always money.
globally, let's say that
Yep.
there's a global war, or there's a problem between a family,
Yep.
generally, if you follow the money, you can find the problem.
You are 100% right. Follow the money. That's where the problem is.
Yeah.
All right. So your retirement, not in the fire service, 60 is a mandatory age. You have to retire at 60. I retired a little bit early, but you're a writer and you're a television personality and you're a family entrepreneur. You don't have to retire. You can retire when Frankie Flowers can retire whenever Frankie Flowers wants. Do you have, what do you, I mean, you're still too young, but it's never too young to start thinking. What's on the horizon? Or how are you going to segue in? Or what are you thinking?
So first off, when I was younger and I was always passionate about gardening, being in the family business, and my family originally wanted me to be a lawyer. And so that was my original path. I was actually going to be a lawyer for the family. And then I decided, law is really, I'm too much of an outdoors person. I love things growing. I love that process. And I don't think I'd be happy. And then, being in the world of gardening and you're promoting and motivating people to garden, I can do that forever. I could do that, till the day I die. To me, retirement will be when I don't get up at 3 a.m. anymore. That's one thing that I do each and every day with breakfast television.
Yep.
Retirement to me right now is, it's a ways away, and I still have a lot that I want to get done. I think what I'm doing right now for myself is in terms of, I row every day, a half an hour every day. I do a lot of different stretching and whatnot because I'm working out to when I'm 100. So I'm working out today so that when I'm 100, if I have at that time a great grandchild, I'll be able to bend down to say hello to my great grandchild.
Very nice.
So these are some things that I think about. Retirement.
My grandfather lived to be 100 and he played golf till he was 97. So you're totally on the mark.
Yeah, if you want to, keep moving. If you want to move, keep moving.
Yeah, motion is lotion.
Yeah, but retirement scares me as well. I'm a busy guy, and I don't feel like I'm working. So right now, I don't feel like I'm working. So the problem is, if I'm having fun, well, with retirement, what's going to fill that void that I'm really challenging, growing, and learning, and meeting, and being exposed to many different things. Like right now, I'm actually working on a project with bees to help improve the productivity of hives.
Oh, I love that.
With a new technology. Yeah. So it's pretty simple technology, but so I'm learning about bees and the way that they fly in and out of the hive and ways that we can improve that.
Yeah. And I'm so glad, you said right now, because I'm grateful that talking to me doesn't feel like work. That's a bonus for me. Thank you. All right. So I had one last question. So can we go back to the bees? Because I'm told that honeybees are not native to Ontario, but of course they are absolutely essential to our food and our fruit and everything that's necessary. And they're taking a large hit. So is this project you're working on going to help revive the bees?
Yeah, there's many different bees that are out there. So there are honeybees, and then there's also some native bee species and mason bees and whatnot that are pollinators. Bees have taken a big hit because of varroa mites, which is almost like a parasite that hits the hives themselves.
Oh.
That can knock out a lot of different bees. And then bees also struggle with, urban populations being built, global climate change with heat and variations, and then even the use to some insecticides and pesticides that are out there. They're improving each and every day. But, how can we improve their yields and then even improve the honey? That's kind of the question. Neat thing about honey is that honey is something that never goes bad. And, they found honey in the pyramids, and the honey that they found in the pyramids in Egypt was still viable and good.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy to think like an insect is producing a sweet food. Even bee pollen can help with allergies. It's amazing. And the way they work is amazing.
And I think that's fascinating you bring that comment up about the pyramids, because I paint in encaustic, which is a mix of beeswax and resin.
Oh, cool.
And so sarcophagi were painted, and the insides of the temples were painted in encaustic paint, the mix of the beeswax and colors and then the resin, and they last for millennia. So the fact that honey lasts as long as the beeswax, I don't find surprising at all, but fascinating nonetheless. So that sounds like a really interesting project.
And it's somewhere where you got to travel.
Oh my gosh.
Egypt can be crazy at times, though. I don't know. That's be a scary place at times.
I think you're right, but it's definitely on my bucket list. And there's that the place in Jordan where that sand wall where there was a temple in the river, wherever it's in Jordan. It's up the wall. It's seen in lots of movies. That's on my bucket list. Not a lot of plants there, but definitely a place I would like to go. I just got back.
Even with sand dunes, you'll always find some sort of life that's there. Like that's a cactus, like cacti and cactus.
Right.
Their ability to retain moisture is amazing and store. And the reason why they have thorns is to protect themselves, because everything wants to eat them because they're a source of water.
Right. I just got back from 10 days in Costa Rica, had the most amazing time, and everything was so lush and so green. But we went up into the mountains to a finca to see where coffee came from. It was amazing. But there was a rock slide on one of the walls. And it's funny you should say about things growing, because the jungle wants to take over everything immediately. And this rock slide had only happened a couple of days before. And on this face of all this cracked, broken rock are plants shooting out of it, just waiting to take over again. So it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool. Plants, like, they are amazing.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun and very interesting. So do you have any last words for anybody? I know the newest book is out, right?
Yeah, so my last book, which was called Food to Grow, so that was on growing food. It has been out. It was sold out, so I'm just waiting for a new print to happen by HarperCollins.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then each and every week you can go on to Facebook. If you go to @AskFrankieFlowers on Facebook, 9 to 9:30 every Sunday morning, I actually do a garden Q&A. So
Cool.
I've been doing that since the beginning of the pandemic, and it's great. So I do it every week, and we just talk about the world of gardening, and sometimes I have giveaways. I've given away garden clogs and different interesting things.
I bet. Okay, I will make sure I include the link to that in my blog when I put it out. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. And I'm going to sign off to everybody now. Thank you, everybody, for watching or who's going to watch. And thanks to Frankie Flowers for being my guest. Cheers, everybody.